globalism won't work. I know that sounds like a stupid, just tangent from some right-winger to bring up, say, oh, there's some just dumb memes like, oh, the globalists are out to get us, like some Alex Jones nonsense, but I have a little more nuance to it, as I'm hoping my audience would come to expect from me at this point. Globalism won't work, and I get two main points that when it comes to it. We do not all have the same values, and also we are reliant on specific nations to maintain monopolies in industries that lead to catastrophic economic risk. You would have thought, hopefully, that we would have learned something during the COVID crisis, but we're already seeing trends that show that we learn nothing. We make the same mistakes, and it'll just keep repeating over and over again. I am a email subscriber to the Semafor flagship, which is their daily newsletter with all the headlines. Interesting outlet. I'm a fan of Semafor with what they've been doing, even though that they're like this co-brand of founded by like a BuzzFeed guy and someone, I can't remember the other creator at this point. But it's funny how effective. It's really a good outlet. Their newsletters are great. I highly suggest you check it out. There's an obvious left-leaning bent to it, but I feel like they do a good job showing a bit of both sides of the stories. I get a little frustrated at times, but it's better than NPR, I'll tell you that much. So let's throw up, this was October 16th's newsletter, and I was reading through this and just shaking my head thinking, these are things I thought we would have moved past. The way we were thinking about the Middle East with this first story, Gaza crisis builds as invasion nears, and wide-ranging diplomatic effort was underway to avert the UN, what the UN described as an impending humanitarian catastrophe. Is Israel readied an expected ground invasion in Gaza? We're just repeating the same nonsense we have seen since 2001. The idea that we think we can make the Middle East be this Western vision of diplomacy is just not possible. Once again, we do not have the same values. This comes to Palestine for obvious reasons. They support Hamas, Hezbollah. They think that their Islamic theocracy vision for that region, at least when it comes to the leadership. I'm not talking about the individual citizens. We will dive into that another time because it's very nuanced. But the values don't match. There's no way around it. They do not match. Yet, here we are, expecting this to magically work out again because for some reason the West still believes we can make this happen. And once again, and then going over to Israel, obviously it's the same situation. It's just a little more westernized with it. The racism of many Jewish Israelis with regards to the Arabs and the Palestinians is obvious. There's tons of examples of it. Once again, we'll dive deeper into that in another episode, but we need to realize this portion of the world does not work like us. And we move over to a more Western nation, Poland opposition on track to win power, where we're seeing the populist conservatives taking over and realizing, once again, unlike the Americanized liberalism where everyone to have an input, that's not necessarily how the rest of the world works. This populist conservative party is looking to take over Poland, and for me as a conservative, it's super interesting to see what happens. But they're not happy with what's been going on with immigration and things like that. The idea of just open borders, progressive politics just is not the case. And once again, we do not all have the same values. Here is the Israel-Hamas conflict fractures the globe, where we have India jumping in and China and Russia going, Israel's cool in some aspects, but Palestine isn't necessarily all bad. I mean, because once again, there are fundamental divides between the West and the East and Russia, and how they want the world to develop over time, where we see, in particular India, quote, long supporter Palestinians, in which only established full diplomatic relations with Israel in 1992, has strongly backed Israel. In part, this is due to domestic political shifts, but also suggests New Delhi is offering a signal to the United States about its willingness to support a critical U.S. ally. So it's not necessarily because they believe in the Palestinian movement or the Israeli movement is just to play nice with the United States. This is, like, once again, with my second point, it's monopolies on economics. The United States dollar still somehow, even though we've tried our best to destroy it over the last few years, is the key economic driver in the West, in the East, as we're seeing with India. If the dollar does bad, India's money is not going to do as well. It has snowballing effects around the world's economies when it comes to it. And economic issues again. Fertilizer costs hit the African supplies because of issues with the Ukrainian conflict, which is still going on, even though it's been more than a year, is having far-reaching effects economically, because from a globalism standpoint, they are reliant, the world is reliant on Ukrainian fertilizer, because we have not had enough diversification of this vital aspect of our agriculture that we need in order to not have mass famine across this planet. We were relying on Ukraine, which is now in a war for its own independence. And guess what? If Russia takes it over, we're going to have issues where Russia's not necessarily going to play nice with the rest of the world. If Ukraine does somehow win some portion of their property back, their territory back, they're a disaster right now. They don't have any money. They don't have the ability to maintain the lands. They're relying on, once again, on the United States dollar in order to function because we're funding their economy. I don't know what we expect to do here. We go over to Paris and Berlin's nuclear standoff. Like, it's just one after the other with this newsletter. It opened my eyes when it came to this specific point. Like, Berlin, Germany, they're not on board with nuclear anymore. Paris and France is still kind of on the nuclear train, in my opinion, the correct way to look at it. And because they are moving away from maintaining their nuclear reactors over in Germany, they're relying on coal. Like, if you don't figure out some way to maintain yourself independently, like nuclear energy, your own ability to have an agricultural economy that's effective, being able to function at some level without one foreign nation falling, that's catastrophic. The United States, if China falls, if we no longer trade with them, can you imagine the impact on that? I mean, how many of the things that are around here in my studio setup are made in China, or some aspect of it is produced in China? We're hosed if we have a huge issue with China in that situation, and Taiwan for that matter when it comes to semiconductors. It's like you just see all these global conflicts, and so much of it are the issues we see with regards to just lack of forethought when it comes to what we want our global economy to be. Yes, we need to have free trade across the world, across multiple nations, but the diversification and economic independence of each nation should be an important balance that should be considered. It is not considered at all. We are seeing over and over again through COVID, when it came to China shutting down, through all their COVID lockdowns, when it comes to economic issues with Taiwan due to the China conflict and there where we get all of our semiconductors, when it comes to Ukraine with fertilizer not being able to leave that part of the world effectively, so now we're at risk of famine in Asia and other parts of the world and Africa. We need to be a little more nuanced in what we're doing, and I don't know a way to make that happen except for continue to shout into the ether that is the internet, hoping someone will open their eyes that has power in this world. This is the New England Take. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Find the audio version of the show on your favorite podcast platforms, and we'll talk to you soon.